My name's Rachel Donovan. I'm 28 years old, and tonight, I'm standing on stage in a designer gown that costs more than most people's annual salaries, gripping a microphone that's about to blow the lid off everything. 6 months ago, my parents forced me into a marriage with someone they called a nobody. This will humble you, my mother, Victoria, had hissed during my dress fitting. It's where you belong after what you did. What they didn't know was that the man they chose, Eli, had a bank account that made our family fortune look like spare change, and tonight, at my parents' 35th anniversary gala, the crown jewel of their perfectly curated image, I'm about to take this mic and dismantle the entire show. But before I get into how I brought the Donovans to their knees, tell me, where are you watching from? And if you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you the most, hit that like and subscribe. This story's for you. Growing up as a Donovan in Boston's Beacon Hill meant never needing to ask twice. Our colonial mansion, sprawling, white-pillared, immaculately manicured, was more than just home. It was a statement. Old money met new ambition, and we were right at the intersection. My father, Richard Donovan, had taken his grandfather's modest real estate office and built Donovan Properties, an East Coast development empire with holdings in every major city from Philly to Miami. My mother, Victoria, ran our social image like a Fortune 500 PR exec. From the marble floors in the foyer to the concert grand Steinway in the sunroom, every detail of our lives was curated for maximum prestige. By 7, I was playing Chopin. By 9, I could host a dinner party with proper table settings, from shrimp forks to dessert spoons. By the time I hit middle school, I could glide through a charity event without breaking a sweat or dropping a single wrong name. Shoulders back, Rachel, my mother would whisper at galas, jabbing a manicured finger between my shoulder blades. Donovan women never slouch. My closet was wall-to-wall couture. My bathroom counter was lined with $300 serums and French skincare. My life? A blur of etiquette lessons, equestrian training, and charity work tailor-made for magazine features. Then there was my little sister, Hannah, 5 years younger and always in my shadow. She watched me like a hawk, copied everything from my makeup routine to how I ordered sparkling water. Teach me how to do that eyeliner flick, she'd beg from her perch on my bathroom counter. Mom says I'll never have your elegance, she'd add, like it was a compliment, but really, it was a jab from our mother delivered through her. That was Victoria's love language, divide and control. Praise one, then undermine the other. Switch the roles the next day. We weren't daughters, we were soldiers in a beauty pageant turned war zone. Her best friend and enforcer? Susan Hallberg, a hawk-eyed socialite with a shipping fortune and an obsession with appearances. She monitored my every move at events, then reported back to my mother like a well-dressed spy. Rachel, darling, she'd purr at charity galas, sidling up beside me. That boy you were talking to, his family owns those discount furniture chains, don't they? How diverse your tastes are becoming. Until I was 26, I played the role to perfection. I graduated Princeton, earned my MBA from Wharton, and stepped into a polished position at Donovan Properties. I dated appropriate men from acceptable families. Maintained my weight in the exact range mother called elegant but not scary. I did everything right, then I made the mistake of wanting something for myself. A boutique? My dad repeated, peering over my business plan like I'd just handed him a coloring book. Rachel, we build skyscrapers. We don't sell handbags. It's not just handbags, Dad. It's high-end fashion curation. There's a gap in Boston's market for emerging designers. The Newberry Street location is perfect. And the financials, I'll fund your little side project, he cut me off, going back to his Wall Street Journal. Just think of it as a pricey lesson in why you should stick to what you know. But for 3 glorious months, Atelier Rachel thrived. I poured myself into it. Minimalist interiors with Italian lighting. Carefully sourced collections from new designers. Influencers and fashion editors stopped in. We got featured in local mags. My partner, Vanessa Cole, ran operations. I handled creative and client experience. It was everything I'd dreamed of. Until the call. The accounts are empty, Miss Donovan, the accountant said. And you have unpaid vendor invoices totaling nearly $300,000. Vanessa had vanished, along with every penny we had. Fake records. Phony contracts. She'd done this before, under at least 2 other names. By the time the Boston Herald picked up the story, it was on page 6, Donovan heiress duped in boutique fraud. My parents were furious. You embarrassed this family. Dad exploded over dinner. Did you even check her background? Richard, my mom hissed, eyes darting toward his blood pressure monitor. Then she turned those glacier blue eyes on me. You were given responsibility. You failed. And it reflects on all of us. They moved fast, took back the apartment, technically under Donovan Properties. Shut off my credit cards. Repossessed the Mercedes and replaced it with a 10-year-old Honda Civic, appropriate transportation, my mother said. For someone relearning financial responsibility. Every family dinner became a roast of my failure. Every cousin's promotion was a chance for passive-aggressive digs about understanding your limits. Donovan's scandals had happened before, Uncle Harris and his gambling, Dad's previous marriage, but this? A failed business? That was personal. 6 months of corporate exile followed. I applied to jobs in fashion, design, media. All dead ends. My last name shut more doors than it opened now. I wore discount basics my mother approved of. Lived in the guest suite, which was code for a glorified closet with a window. The worst part wasn't the lifestyle downgrade. It was watching my identity erode. I wasn't Rachel Donovan, driven and creative, I was the disappointment. A cautionary tale. Then, one April evening, it happened. I walked into the sitting room and found Dad in his leather chair. Mom beside him, and a stranger by the fireplace. Mid-30s, gray suit, plain shoes. He looked like an assistant at a tax firm. Sit down, Rachel, Dad said, voice low and dangerous. Mom touched his arm, faux concern hiding behind poise. Your father and I have made a decision. I've applied for 37 positions, I shot back. I've gotten 37 rejections, mostly from companies where you hold influence, by the way. That only proves our point, she replied. You're incapable of functioning independently. She gestured to the stranger. This is Matthew Quinn. He's agreed to marry you. I blinked. Excuse me? Matthew stepped forward with a polite smile and extended his hand. I didn't take it, Matthew Quinn, he said. It's a pleasure. Plain brown hair. Clean shave. Navy blue tie that screamed department store. Everything about him was unremarkable. Bland. This isn't the 1800s, I snapped. You can't just arrange a marriage like it's a business merger. It's not a negotiation, my mother replied coolly. Matthew has generously agreed to this arrangement despite your recent missteps. In return, you'll get a modest apartment and an entry-level position at Donovan Properties. And if I say no? Dad's jaw clenched. Then you leave this house with nothing. No car, no job, no money, no references. And your father's heart, my mother added, dramatically placing a hand on his arm. Can't take much more stress. I ran straight to Hannah's room. She was curled up on her bed, scrolling her phone, already wearing the expression that told me she knew. They'd been planning it for weeks, she said quietly, twisting her graduation ring. It's not just about punishing you anymore. It's about controlling the story. What story? The redemption arc, she said bitterly. You, the wild child, learning humility by marrying some forgettable guy and working a real job. It's PR gold for them. I stared at her. Who even is he? Financial consultant, she shrugged. Works at some boutique firm. Dad's lawyer says he's steady. Mom likes that he's not forgettable. Someone who won't compete with the family brand. 3 days later, I met Matthew again, this time over dinner at a steakhouse that was more Chili's than Capitol Grill. He drove a Honda Civic nearly identical to the one my parents had saddled me with, his apartment. The third floor of a converted brownstone in a revitalized neighborhood, complete with IKEA furniture and motivational quotes framed on the walls. I get that this isn't ideal, he said, pouring me water from a filter pitcher. But I think we could build something functional. Functional? I repeated. That's your pitch? Not even pretending this is about compatibility or romance? He shrugged. Would you prefer I lie? No, I'd prefer not to be in a forced marriage at all. Before I could press him, his phone buzzed. Excuse me, he said, disappearing into a small office off the hallway. I heard his voice through the closed door, calm, crisp, confident. He sounded like a different man entirely. Like someone used to being in charge. That's when I started getting suspicious. The next night, I met up with my ex-boyfriend, Nick Alexander, at a cocktail bar in Back Bay. Nick and I had dated during business school. He was polished, ambitious, and predictably strategic. This whole marriage thing is insane, he said after I laid it out. They can't seriously expect you to go through with it. They gave me a choice. I said bitterly. Obey or vanish. He took a sip of his old-fashioned, then leaned forward. What if there was another option? Someone they already liked, someone with a clean track record? You? He smiled, but there was calculation behind it. Look, I've always cared about you, Ratch. And the Donovan name, it could open some doors for me. Maybe this situation could work for both of us. There it was. Not I love you. Not let me help. Just this could be good for my career. I left him there at the bar and walked home in designer heels that blistered with every step. The message was clear, without the Donovan halo, I wasn't worth the risk. I was damaged goods. Bargain bin prestige, at my wedding dress fitting. The final blow landed. Mother had selected a plain ivory sheath dress. Elegant but forgettable. Nothing flashy. No drama. The Quinn boy is doing us a favor, she said as the seamstress took in the waist. You should be grateful anyone would have you. I looked in the mirror. What I saw wasn't a bride. It was a woman being erased. The wedding day arrived with blue skies and birds chirping, because of course it did. It was the kind of picture-perfect day that mocked my unraveling. The ceremony was in the garden behind the mansion. Gone was the lavish, 300-guest society wedding I'd once been promised. In its place, 50 hand-picked guests, most of whom had ghosted me after the boutique collapse. Nothing extravagant, Mother told the wedding planner. We're focusing on family values and humility. I moved through the morning like a sleepwalker. The makeup artist concealed my exhaustion. The hairstylist pulled my hair into a tight, sensible bun. The ivory dress fit like a chastity belt. And the pearl necklace? Symbol of elegance, Mother said. Translation, this is all you get now. Dad walked me down the aisle, his grip so tight it felt like a warning. The audience wore expressions of polite pity. Susan Hallberg dabbed at invisible tears. My former best friend Jenna posted beach photos that weekend instead of showing up. Even the family pastor's sermon included lines about humility and accepting your place in life. Matthew waited at the altar looking oddly calm in a tux that actually fit for once. When I reached him, he whispered, "Just breathe." It was the first real human thing anyone had said to me in months. The reception was a haze of awkward small talk and paper-thin congratulations. "Marriage will mature you," said Aunt Carol, patting my hand like I was a rescue dog. "The Quinn boy seems stable," said Dad's golf buddy, with the same tone he used to describe household appliances. I glanced over at Matthew's side of the room. Only 5 guests. All looked like they had real jobs and wore their own clothes, not borrowed prestige. A striking woman with streaks of silver in her hair caught my eye and raised her glass. Her toast felt more genuine than anything my own family had offered. The wedding gifts said it all: a toaster, a vacuum, some discount cookware. Practical things. Humbling things. My parents' centerpiece gift? A deed to an apartment in a developing neighborhood and a job offer, admin support at Donovan Properties, entry level, Dad said. Appropriate for your experience. Matthew got a role in financial services, junior level, of course. We left the party in his Civic, not a Rolls-Royce. No honeymoon, just a weekend in the Berkshires. No luxury suite, just a bed and breakfast with creaky floors. The apartment, our wedding gift, was a third-floor walk-up in a converted factory building. Twin beds. Beige everything. A fake plant in the corner that looked like it was dying of boredom. Home sweet home, Matthew said, setting our suitcases down. This isn't a home, I muttered. It's a punishment cell. The next morning, I realized what I had never been taught: how to live. How to brew coffee. How to do laundry. How to use bleach without ruining your towels. My glamorous life had left me helpless. Matthew watched me flounder with quiet patience. I can show you how to grocery shop, he offered when he found me staring into an empty fridge. Or meal prep. It's not hard. I turned on him. Why aren't you angry? You're stuck in this marriage too. He looked at me. And for the first time, his voice dropped its even tone. I've lived with less, he said. And nobody forced me. I agreed to this. That hung in the air between us. Heavy. Mysterious. That weekend, I caught him in his locked office again, speaking on the phone in a tone that didn't belong to a junior analyst. His words were sharp. Direct. High stakes. That's when I started to wonder, who exactly had I married? I couldn't ignore it anymore. Matthew wasn't who he claimed to be. He kept strange hours, took calls behind locked doors, and had conversations that didn't match someone in an entry-level financial services role. No admin assistant uses terms like market consolidation strategy or close before Singapore opens. My curiosity finally pushed me over the edge. One night, I woke up around midnight and noticed his bed was empty again. I padded softly to the door of his home office. Usually, it was locked. But this time, it wasn't. I turned the knob and stepped into a different world. 3 large monitors lit the room in a soft, electric glow. One screen showed complex financial graphs, another a live Bloomberg terminal. In the corner stood a tower of high-end servers, hardware I only recognized because of a brief investment course at Wharton, and there was Matthew. Or whoever he really was. Speaking crisply into a headset while running a simulation across one of the monitors. The Singapore acquisition must finalize before their markets open. Tell legal to prep signature docs and alert PR. We'll use standard merger language, efficiency, synergy, forward strategy. He turned and froze. I stood there, stunned in my pajamas, hair wild, heart pounding. You're not a junior anything, I said. No, he admitted calmly. I'm not. He removed his headset, motioned for me to sit, and pulled a magazine from the bottom drawer of his desk, a business publication, dated 2 years back. He slid it toward me and tapped the headline, The Invisible Billionaire, How Aurora Investments Quietly Took Over the World. My stomach dropped. The article was about Aurora Investments, a private equity firm with a global footprint and a valuation in the billions. Its elusive founder, known only by initials, MP, had never been photographed and was famous for avoiding the spotlight. You're him, I whispered. You're MP? Matthew Parker, he said simply. CEO and founder of Aurora. Estimated net worth, $4.2 billion, give or take. I sat back, floored. Why? Why the lie? Why live like this? Why marry me? He ran a hand through his hair, no longer the neat side part of the forgettable consultant persona. This Matthew looked like a leader. Confident. Controlled. My background isn't like yours, he said. I grew up in Chicago. Working class neighborhood. My mom cleaned houses. I put myself through state college. I built Aurora on instinct, analytics, and a hell of a lot of sacrifice. He began pacing slowly. But the richer I got, the more I saw how money distorted everything. People didn't see me anymore. They saw the bank account. They wanted access. Leverage. Status. He stopped and looked at me. So I stepped back. Hid my identity. Lived simply. I didn't want to become one of those guys who only exists inside boardrooms and private jets. And marrying me? I asked, throat tight. At first, it was strategy, he said without flinching. I knew your father. Knew the Donovan brand. When his lawyer approached me about this arrangement, I saw an opportunity to observe the inner workings of your family before making business moves that could affect them. My fists clenched. So I was just a field assignment? A case study? Not exactly, he said quietly. Because what I didn't expect was you. I folded my arms. You're going to have to explain that one. I saw a woman whose entire identity had been stripped away, he said. And instead of falling apart, you adapted. You learned. You endured. Most people would have crumbled. You didn't. My voice cracked. I didn't have a choice. But you did. You could have run. Or married Nick. Or played the victim. But you didn't. You kept going. He turned back to his screens and typed a few commands. And you need to know, your boutique didn't fail because of you. I froze. What? He pulled up a series of documents, bank transfers, email chains, business registrations. Your partner, Vanessa Cole, had 3 other identities before she conned you. But more importantly, your mother's foundation made a donation to a nonprofit tied to Vanessa 2 weeks before she approached you. And your father's associate, Robert Gaines, personally recommended her. That's just coincidence, I said, my voice trembling. Maybe, he replied. But this isn't. He pointed to a record of wire transfers, from the Veronica Donovan Foundation to a shell company that eventually paid Vanessa. You were set up, Rachel. Your mother created the conditions for your failure. Your father looked the other way. It was orchestrated to teach you a lesson, one that ended with you married off and neutralized. I felt like the floor dropped out beneath me. 6 months of shame. Of wondering what I did wrong. Of blaming myself, and now, this. Why would she do that? I whispered. She could have just said no. Because you were succeeding, Matthew said, his tone darkening. Because you were becoming independent. Because your boutique didn't need them. And that was a threat. I sat in silence, every cruel comment, every snide smile, every manipulative lesson flashing through my mind. How long have you known? I asked. I had my suspicions before we got married. I confirmed everything about 3 months ago. Why didn't you tell me? He walked over, kneeling beside me. Because you weren't ready. Because if I'd dumped all this on you before you found your own strength, it would have crushed you. But now? Now you're strong enough to use it. And what do I do now? I asked. That's up to you, he said. Revenge? Reclamation? Rebuilding? You decide. I'll help. But it's your story now. And for the first time in a long time, someone wasn't trying to write my ending, he was asking what I wanted it to be. I looked him in the eye. I want justice. I want my name back. And I want a life that's mine, not theirs. He nodded. Then let's get to work. That night, we didn't push the beds together for romance. We did it to sit across from each other as equals. Partners, I told him everything, about my childhood, my dreams, the silent wars in my house that wore pearls and satin gloves. He listened. No judgment. Just presence. He told me about building Aurora. The night sleeping under his desk. The college professor who told him he'd never make it past regional accounting. The moment he knew he'd built something real. I never wanted to run a real estate empire, I confessed. I wanted to create something beautiful. I loved fashion, design, expression. My parents treated it like a hobby. But I knew it mattered. And it still can, he said. Let's clear your name. Let's rebuild. In the morning, we shook on it. Partners? He asked. Partners, I agreed, gripping his hand like it was the first real thing I'd touched in months. We started with the truth. For 2 weeks, our modest apartment transformed into a war room. Charts and documents replaced throw pillows. Whiteboards lined the walls. The kitchen table became a command center stacked with files, laptops, and takeout containers from Boston's best restaurants, because Matthew insisted, if we're gonna go to battle, we don't eat garbage. He brought in Grace Lewis, the silver-haired woman from our wedding. I'd noticed her back then, raising a quiet toast while everyone else pitied me. Now I learned she was Aurora's chief strategy officer, and Matthew's longtime mentor. She radiated the kind of calm authority that made me sit straighter just by being in the room. Let's begin by separating fact from fiction, she said, flipping open my original boutique business plan. Your projections were solid. The product selection was strong. Emerging designers you chose have since gained mainstream recognition. She looked up at me. Rachel, your boutique didn't fail because it was a bad idea. It failed because someone made sure it would. That hit me harder than expected. Because deep down, a part of me still believed I had messed it up. That maybe I wasn't cut out for business, but now, for the first time, I had proof. Real, irrefutable proof. Matthew walked me through everything: how to read balance sheets like a forensic accountant, how to recognize manipulation in business communications, how to trace money through shell accounts and charitable foundations. You have the instincts, he said. You just need the tools. With Grace's guidance, I worked through case studies and real-time corporate examples. Every completed task built back a piece of my confidence. Every solved puzzle reminded me that I wasn't stupid or reckless. I had been betrayed. Then came the bombshell. Vanessa Cole, my ex-business partner, had operated under 3 aliases before she approached me. Rachel Carter, Renee Clark, Veronica Chambers. Each identity came with a paper trail of fraud, shell companies, and fake resumes. She was a professional con artist. Her background should have been easy to uncover with even basic due diligence, which is why someone had to intentionally bypass the process, Grace said, sliding over emails between my dad's associate Robert Gaines and Vanessa. He vouched for her. Signed off on her background. Cleared her through internal checks. We dug deeper. Bank records showed wire transfers between Vanessa's shell entities and accounts tied to my mother's charity foundation. Timing matched perfectly. Money moved just days before she proposed our business partnership. And right after she emptied our accounts. Why would they go to this length? I asked, sickened. Because it served multiple purposes, Grace explained. It discredited you publicly. It justified stripping away your independence. It positioned your parents as the saviors who gave you a second chance through marriage. Matthew nodded. They didn't just want you to fail. They needed you to need them. A week later, an opportunity presented itself in the most ironic form imaginable. Mother's assistant called with a formal invitation to the Donovans' 35th wedding anniversary gala. Black tie. 7 p.m. For season's ballroom, the stage is set, Matthew said, a slow smile forming. Every society name that ever doubted you will be in that room. He immediately activated his team. Aurora's tech division discreetly secured digital access to the venue's audiovisual systems. James, Aurora's security chief, coordinated the logistics. Grace organized the presentation with military precision, evidence files, timestamps, encrypted backups. We rehearsed like it was a trial, because in many ways, it was. Grace coached me on how to hold my ground under pressure. Your parents will try to rattle you emotionally, she warned. Your mother will interrupt. Your father will play the victim. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Let the evidence speak. James ran simulations, throwing every manipulation tactic at me, from gaslighting to guilt-tripping. You're not just revealing a fraud, he said. You're breaking their entire system of control. Expect resistance. Meanwhile, Matthew handled optics. You'll need to show them who you really are now, not the version they've painted. He handed me his black card. Buy something that makes you feel powerful. Instead of heading to the usual designer boutiques, I went to see Olivia Chen. Olivia had once been an emerging designer I mentored. She'd tried to reach out after my boutique collapse, but her calls never reached me, thanks to my mother, who had quietly severed every line of support I'd had left. She greeted me with a hug and tears in her eyes. I've been trying to find you for months, she said. Your mom's assistant always claimed you were traveling or unavailable. That stung more than I expected. I told her everything. She listened without flinching. Then she got to work. What she created was more than a dress, it was a declaration, deep crimson. Sculptural lines. Elegant but commanding. The kind of gown you didn't just wear, you owned. This isn't a costume, Olivia said at the final fitting. This is who you've always been. They just tried to bury her. 2 days before the gala, Matthew suggested I reach out to Hannah. She's been watching closely, he said. You might need someone on the inside. I invited her for coffee, just the two of us. No handlers. No pressure. She showed up in the usual Donovan uniform, pearls, pencil skirt, polished smile. But under the gloss, I saw the same weariness I used to feel. Mom's been unbearable since you left, she said, stirring her latte. She's micromanaging my job, my apartment, even my shoes. Last week, she told me my haircut was off-brand. I took a deep breath. There's something I need to tell you. About the boutique. About what really happened. But Hannah stopped me. I know. What? I overheard Robert and Dad talking about the payments to Vanessa. Found old emails and photos of her under different names. I didn't know what to do. By the time I pieced it together, you were already married and out of reach. She looked down, ashamed. I tried to warn you. But Mom monitors everything. I was scared. I reached for her hand. You don't have to be anymore. We spent hours planning her role. She wouldn't be an active participant, it was too risky, but she'd be a neutral witness. Someone who could quietly observe reactions. Someone who could support me with a simple choice. Where she stood in the room, the night before the gala, Matthew and I finalized everything. Backup files. Live feeds. Strategic placements. You sure you want to do this? He asked, searching my face. Once this starts, there's no going back. Your parents won't recover from this easily. I thought about the fake marriage. The betrayal. The erasure of everything I'd worked for. The way they rewrote my life like I was just another PR project. I don't want to go back, I said. Not to who I was. Not to who they wanted me to be. Matthew reached for my hand. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you. This started as a contract, but you've become the most courageous partner I've ever known. That night, for the first time, we slept in the same bed, not because we had to, but because we wanted to, because tomorrow, we weren't just showing up, we were taking back my story. The Four Seasons ballroom glittered like a jewel box that night. White orchids, crystal sculptures, and golden lighting transformed the space into a monument to the Donovan brand, an altar to wealth, longevity, and curated perfection. Photos from my parents' 35 years of marriage decorated illuminated displays, them at black tie galas. Groundbreaking ceremonies, family vacations in Aspen, all reinforcing the narrative of unshakable prestige. Matthew and I arrived 15 minutes late, not by accident. We pulled up in his black Bentley, no longer hidden, and walked in together, arm in arm. I wore Olivia's crimson gown, a statement in a sea of muted gowns and navy tuxes. Matthew, in a perfectly tailored black tux, radiated effortless power. All conversation paused as we entered. My mother spotted us first. Her smile froze. My father's expression tightened. They hadn't seen this version of me, the one they didn't control. They approached with careful smiles. Rachel, mother greeted, lips taut. You look unexpected. Thank you, I said evenly. We wanted to celebrate your big night properly. Matthew handed her a slim envelope. We've made a donation to Children's Hospital in your name. She opened it, her eyebrows flicked upward at the figure inside. How generous, she murmured. Your consulting must be going quite well. You could say that, he replied. My father looked him over again. Noticed the watch. The posture. The shift. Donovan Properties must be paying junior consultants a hell of a salary. Actually, Richard, Matthew said, voice smooth, I recently took a position that better aligns with my strengths. They tried to usher us away. But Matthew leaned close and whispered, Society attack squad incoming. 3, 2, 1, right on cue, Susan Hallberg appeared, decked out in diamonds and fake concern. Rachel, darling, she said, eyes scanning my gown like it was contagious. How brave of you to wear such a bold color. Given everything. I smiled. Matthew's been helping me understand the difference between appearance and substance. It's been illuminating. We made our rounds, introducing ourselves to people who, unbeknownst to my parents, were Aurora board members, financial journalists, and key industry allies. Each one greeted us with deference. Respect. Across the room, I spotted Vanessa Cole, yes, Vanessa, laughing with my mother. They'd invited her. To rattle me, it didn't work. I walked straight up to them. Vanessa, I said, my voice calm. How surprising to see you. She blinked. Rachel. I'd heard you'd taken a step back from fashion. Temporarily, I said. I've been deep in financial investigations lately. Fascinating patterns emerge when you follow the right data. Vanessa's fake smile twitched. My mother cut in, clearly irritated. She's here as a guest, Rachel. Don't cause a scene. I never do, I replied, walking away as James, Aurora's security chief, stepped in to make sure Vanessa didn't slip out early. A few minutes later, Hannah approached. Dressed in navy silk, she wore simple jewelry, but her earrings, bold and geometric, were a quiet rebellion. Everything's going to schedule, she whispered. Dad's speech in 5. Yours right after. They think you're here to say something sweet and obedient. Perfect, the orchestra quieted. My father's business partner, Robert Gaines, tapped his glass and launched into a toast filled with words like legacy, loyalty, and Donovan values. Then came my mother, dressed in ice blue couture, her voice syrupy as she addressed the crowd. Family has always been our cornerstone, she said. We've weathered storms with grace. We've guided with love. Even when our children made mistakes, we offered redemption. Then she smiled sweetly, and now our daughter Rachel would like to share a few words. Polite applause, spotlight on me. I stepped onto the stage with Matthew behind me. calm as ever. "Thank you, Mother," I said into the mic. "It's an honor to speak tonight. This evening marks 35 years of your partnership, built on values like integrity, support, and family unity." I paused, letting their smiles settle, which is why I think it's important to talk about what those values look like. When no one's watching. Whispers rippled. Faces stiffened. Last year, I opened a boutique for emerging designers. It was a dream I worked hard to build. Until my business partner, Vanessa Cole, I pointed toward her, embezzled nearly $300. 000 and disappeared. All eyes swiveled to Vanessa, who visibly paled, but she wasn't just a con artist, I continued. She was carefully placed into my business, recommended by Robert Gaines, cleared by my father's team, and indirectly funded by donations from my mother's personal foundation. Gasps now. Real ones. The ballroom screens lit up. Matthew had triggered the AV presentation from his phone, bank transfers. Shell company trails. Photos. Emails, everything. She had 3 aliases. Multiple fraud cases. And yet, she passed all background checks. Because someone wanted her there. My mother stood. "This is outrageous. She's been manipulated by my husband?" I said, smiling. "Perhaps I should properly introduce him." Matthew stepped forward. "I'm Matthew Parker, founder and CEO of Aurora Investments." Stunned silence, he continued. "Aurora has an estimated valuation of $68 billion. I've chosen privacy over headlines. Until now." Murmurs erupted. Susan Hallberg dropped her wine glass. "My mother's face was stone. He married me to help." I said. "No. He married me to observe. To learn why a woman raised with every advantage could be set up to fail by her own family." More slides, emails between Robert and Vanessa. Communications about reining in Rachel. Timelines that align too perfectly with my collapse. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I'm here for truth. My business didn't fail because I was reckless. It failed because I was inconvenient. Because I was trying to build something without their approval." Across the room, Hannah stood and quietly walked to my side. "The final image on screen? My original boutique plan, with endorsements from consultants, retail experts, and designers who had thrived since." My mother stepped toward the stage, trembling. "After everything we've done for you, everything you took from me," I said gently. "Everything you tried to control." Security escorted Vanessa out while reporters whispered into phones. My parents were silent. Stripped of their script. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. As Matthew and I walked out of the ballroom, hand in hand, he whispered, "Not the end." "No," I said. "It's the beginning." The fallout was immediate. Regulators launched investigations into Donovan Properties. Robert resigned. Charity boards asked my mother to step aside. Dad lost board votes. Corporate speak for you're out. My inbox flooded with apologies. Editors. Designers. Even old friends. I declined most. I wasn't interested in rebuilding their illusions, only the truth. Matthew and I moved out of the holding cell apartment and into his real home, a stunning penthouse overlooking the harbor. It was modern, warm, and filled with pieces that told his story. We didn't rush anything, we built it slowly, like trust, like healing. 6 months later, we launched something together, a new boutique incubator focused on sustainable fashion and emerging talent. Olivia became creative director. Grace joined as a silent partner. Hannah? She moved into the apartment we started in. Left the family firm. Started her own design firm. As for my parents, we talk occasionally. Surface level. But the rules have changed. No more control. No more performance, just distance. And honesty. 1 year after the gala, Matthew and I stood on the rooftop of his penthouse under a string of white lights. 20 guests. No press. Just chosen family. He handed me a ring, not flashy. Just real. I didn't choose you for show, he said. I choose you because, in you, I see someone who rebuilt herself from nothing, and chose truth. We said vows. Real ones, no negotiations, no scripts, just love, and this time I didn't wear pearls to prove anything, I wore red, and I smiled. Sometimes, the people who claim to love us the most are also the ones most invested in keeping us small. But your worth isn't tied to your family's legacy, your social status, or the version of you others try to control. Real strength is born when you lose everything others gave you, and discover what you can build for yourself. You don't need permission to reclaim your story. You just need courage. If you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or shaped by someone else's version of who you should be, this story is for you. Tell us below, what's one moment in your life where you chose truth over comfort? Subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us we are not what others call us, we are what we choose to become. And if this story moved you, don't just like it. Live it.